Well, this is Grumpy Dave on a Grumpy Dave garage day, enjoying the fourth day of rain. Just enough of the on and off rain and drizzle so I can't work. The idea is I want to get out there with the camera set up now as we're getting into it. I'm going to come over here and sit down if you don't mind. Here's the mock-up. Here's the spacer. I got one in the back just to hold it level on the bench. I want to get it set up shortly. We're going to be have the LS and the transmission in here. I'll get the dummy set up, the mock-up with the transmission I'm going to use, and plug up the holes in case it rains, because there's no dipstick tube on this engine right now. I kind of decided to use the flexible one so I can move it to where I want it on the firewall, so it'll just move with like a transmission line. Plus to be out of the way. Everything here on this car is in something else's way. And then I'll show you getting the engine ready, get the wiring harness off. The wiring harness has got to be exchanged. Got to go into drive-by cable. So I got to go pick up another ECM. Everything's already tuned for that, for this engine, and take my harness and ECM and wiring harness and the pedal up here. Allergies, almost start sneezing. Hopefully I don't. Something top of the toolbox there. There's my drive-by-wire setup. All that gets put in my truck, and I go down towards southeastern Ohio to my engine guy, return it. I'm going to pay him a little bit of money to go with it, and he's going to get me a newer ECM stuff set up, which he's already got it dialed in for a lighter car when he does his own tuning. It takes the VAT out. That's a vehicle anti-theft. You don't have the chip key, you can start the car for a whole 3 seconds or 5 seconds, then it shuts off. Lo and behold, I don't have the key and I don't want that in there, so instead of paying someone several $100 to do it, it's already done with the engine package. This guy does a good job. I will probably be able to give you a name and a contact to text with his permission. I don't have it. I haven't talked to him yet, so I'm not going to give his info out unless he agrees to it. So we'll be moving in. The front end had to stop. Here's the heater box, ready to go. Here's the rest of the front end, all of it. Every bit of it. Clean, painted, new bushings, new seals for the pistons, wheel bearings, races, springs. Up on the shelf, there's brake pads. Yeah, my grandson just come running in with 3 boxes of pizza, so it must be Pizza Friday. And then I got the nuts and bolts and all the little jars, depending on the job I was working on when I did it. So what I do is, like on the front fenders, I had a jar. And the guys were laughing at me. We're here. Told them I had an OS. I should have my own YouTube Monk channel. The front fender's got 9 bolts down the front, 4 in the front valence, 3 at the bottom of the fender, 4 from the inside of the car into the fender, 3 at the top, and where it tucks for the windshield. I put all those bolts and fittings in a white jar, just like this. I got some keys in here. I don't want to misplace them, so ha ha ha, funny funny. Okay, I like to be organized. I'm getting more and more that way every day. Fenders here, and well, you can. I don't have a whole lot of room to work. I got stuff set up everywhere. I'm working. I got the power washer out because I'm gonna be working on getting the rest of that damn pine sap off that car. I'm gonna scrub it down with simple green, wash it with the power washer, scrub it down again, and get a hand Scotch-Brite pad and wash the car with it. Get it all off. It clogs sandpaper up. As soon as the DA hits it, it heats it up. It sticks to the 80 grit paper, and within a matter of a minute or so, it feels like a smooth sheet of writing paper. It gets hot and it gets on the disc and it cools off and you can't sand. I went through 3 discs and gave up. So that's the reason why that's out. Here's my son's air jack. I gotta get one of these to keep it here. You just let the air out any speed you want, air in any speed you want. It's not like you got to twist the handle on a jack and it comes down too far, then you got to try to raise it up just enough, down a little bit. I can sit there and feather those 2 little knobs and get it in right where I want it. Bad thing is, you're not careful, you bump one of them, you either letting the air out or adding air. So that's the only thing I got against them. But I don't use them in an unsafe position. I use them to jack with, and then I put the supports in. So I don't have to worry about accidentally bumping them that way. I have left it in for support, but I also had jack stands under it. So what we did was I laid a paper towel out just messing with these old boys. And I took all my 9 down here, and then I knew how many I had the square little key on them, washer, how many had a round one. And I put them down a row, did the same thing to the 3, put the lock washers and stuff on the 4 from the inside that come in. You get the picture, and they're all laid out. And anyone I didn't like when I was doing that, I was taking the washers that were flat, the lock washers, tossed them in a magnetic cup, and I had a bag. Well, I went over and bought them you buy them by the pound. I had just got a handful of them. And I was replacing all the lock washers because they, well, face it, they're not locking anymore. They're just flat. And they were laughing at me. And I laid the shim out. And I picked the fender up. Oh, we'll help. I said, no, just don't worry about it. I popped the fender on, moved it around, looked inside the car, started 1 bolt out of the 4 set coming through the inside to the fender, which gave me a line up on that panel, and then I wiggled the top around to get it to fit the track, make sure the front and the bottom was good. Went in and put the 3 in the top first and didn't tighten them down. I can't show you right now because the car's covered up. It pulled together where the T-strip used to be. And then I put the 9 down the front, all the nuts and bolts. I know exactly where they went. And then I didn't put the 4 on because I took the valence completely off at that time. The more I looked at it, the more it irritated me. It was doing more harm than good. So I took it off, and then I started to bolt at the bottom and the back. I put the rest of the bolts on the inside and left everything loose. And then I started down the front with a screwdriver to line the holes up and put all 9 in there. And while they're sitting there talking, I just took my impact, stuck my 3/8 attachment on it, put the socket on it. Once everything was lined up and the door spacing was perfect, I hit the 2 up at the top and pulled the fender in for the lineup, which gave the door gap correct. And I went down at the bottom and did those 3, come up the inside, shut the door, went straight down the 9 in the front, and laid it. The guy says, how long did that take you? I said, from the time I picked the fender up, or from the time I laid the screws out. I said, it took me 15 minutes to get the screws ready with you guys laughing and disturbing me. It took me 3 minutes to walk in over there and pick the fender up and lay it on the car. And this took me 15 minutes to line all the screws up, get everything started with my fingers, get them run into they were loose so I could wiggle it around a little bit. Once I adjusted the door gap, I'm done. 31 minutes. They quit laughing then. I said, because if I work on cars like you guys do, I take all the nuts and bolts, drinking beer with all my buddies, and I got this big pile of shit on the counter over here. Don't know whether it's an engine compartment bolt, body bolt, mounts. God knows where the parts go to, but they're in a pile there. You got them. I said, every part of my car is in one of them jars. You see, right now I can tell you, the snaps for the top is in the first one. The second one has got the seat belt bolts. The third one is got the fittings and stuff. It came out of the interior section, the dashboard and everything. The fourth one is the nuts and bolts that were in the dashboard so I could get this dashboard out. The fifth one up there, I can't see it clearly from here. It's some washers and stuff that have to do with the engine compartment. And then I've got the nuts and the bolts and the stuff for the rack and pinion separate. I got to soak them here shortly and get them ready to go in. And there's one more up there. I can't see it from here. So I just lay a paper towel down and sort them all out. If they get washers or whatever, they get washers. Everything's examined. There's no strip screws. Anything that's not questionable, I got a little magnetic tray. I toss it in. I can use them for a bolt or a flat washer. I can't use them for a lock washer anymore because they don't lock. And that's how I did the whole car. That's the reason why when I got done cleaning, I took the nuts and bolts out of the front end, swung the damper over and down. I took the 4 bolts out of the frame, and the whole thing fell on the ground. And I picked it up, carried it in here, and laid it down. I cut the trunnion bolts, as I had new ones. I was careful not to cut the housing. I cut the trunnion bolts, worked all the bushings loose, cleaned them, and then all the nuts and bolts and washers were sprayed down with some parts cleaner because they didn't have much grease or dirt on them. And then I threw them in a vinegar bath overnight. Stuck them in a bowl full of vinegar, even whether I was going to use them or not. They were all cleaned. The next day I rinsed them off, soaked them again, and at that time I had the parts they were all degreased, and I was wire wheeling them and getting the surfaces cleaned. And once I got all those cleaned, I came in the next day, drained the water out, the vinegar outside, brought it in here, poured in some kerosene. I got some of it here. Sloshed it around and soaked them a little bit to make sure there was no oil or film left on them that I could see. Pulled them out of that bath, dumped the kerosene in my parts washing bucket, cleaned the parts up on the shop towel with some parts clean, let them dry, brought them over here, grabbed the heads of them with vice grip that had a slow turning drill setting with a fine wire wheel, and I practically polished the threads, getting all that vinegar gets in there and gets all that stuff in the threads loose. I just took that little wire wheel thing and a drill and went around it, cleaned them up perfect. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better job. They were shiny and clean, and I could see which ones were damaged or bent or anything because they're clean. They're easy to look at. I had to replace some of them. A couple of them were replaced with over-the-counter bolts. I went and got some lock washers and grade 8 bolt and nuts to replace the ones that they'd replaced or lost with something they picked up in one of them parts counters for 39 cents. I put hardened bolts back in because it kind of happens to be important as part of the steering. And then I painted, hung everything up. You got the strings up here. I had the parts hanging down. I painted everything. As you saw earlier video, I assembled it on the bench. I just ordered a tub, about a pint tub. of that silicone grease. I use it in the polyurethane bushings on the inside, the outside, and in the metal places where they contact with. And when I did that, I could lay them up here, and if they didn't want to press them with my hands, I could grab them with a big pair of channel locks and squeeze them, and they would just slide right in, and just hold them for a little bit while they expand inside the, and then you take it out. They want to pop out, not careful. And I could assemble the thing with little of effort at all. I mean, it just boom, boom, boom. It was there. Right now, they're all got nuts and bolts and everything's in place. There's no pins in them and are not torqued. I'm not going to do any of that until the springs are in. So when the engine weight's on the car, I'll go out and flip them down, put the spring in there, put the air jack under it, probably use, here we go, I'm going to sneeze. There, didn't sneeze. Raised it up, flop the arm over once the spring's in place, put the 4 bolts of the damper, get everything torqued again to double check it, and then I will torque all the castle nuts and put all the keys in, and then I will let the pressure off the jack in the front ends to get, then I can just everything I need is right here. Boom, the front end's done. Once the engine's in, so I got a counterbalance weight, in about 3 hours I'll have the whole front end in, you know, ready to put tires on if I want, which I probably don't, unless I just put them on for safety because I'm going to be under that car quite a bit. But that's the way it goes. Now on the rear end was today's video, is to get on the creeper and go under the car and show you the underneath stuff, but it's wet and nasty and I'm not going to do it. I'm going to have to pull the gas tank, okay? No big deal there. Pull the gas tank out, unhook everything to it, get it all out of there, and probably have to do a little bit of wire brushing and cleaning back here. I want to get a light coat of undercoating in there, in the sections back here. And then when I get ready to make up my mind on what I'm doing for the fuel tank, and then I got to mount the electric fuel pump. I got to mount the pressure regulator and fuel filter, Corvette style, the new fuel line, return line, and the AN conversion fitting up front to go onto the engine. It's going to be interesting, okay? It's all going to be like boom, boom, boom if I keep getting ahead of myself. Right now I found a rear end totally by accident that I think is going to work without doing anything to it. So that's 47. It'll be 52. It'll be 56 inches across. From 47, it'll be 9 inches. 9 divided by is 4.5. So the tires will be out on a flare in the back offset. Which will be quite interesting. I'm going to go to Southern Ohio, so we're going to be doing a junkyard visit. And I want to hook up with a fellow YouTuber if I can, if he's going to be in the area, to do a little bit of videoing and get them to pull me a rear end that I need for this car and the drive shaft. That will bring the drive line all the way up, almost complete. The next thing I got to do is look up a steel drive shaft for the 4L60E instead of the aluminum one. I got this monster thing. I need to bring it down to regular U-joints and stuff. Just, I need the room. There's no reason to be that tight if you don't have to be. I'm just asking for trouble. So basically that's what we're going to do. We're going to start on the engine and transmission tomorrow. You'll see those videos of it coming in. And we'll be pulling the harness off of it and checking it out right here on the floor. We bolt this together with the transmission that's going in the car. Probably won't get it put in until one day next week. I'll get the engine hoist out the corner here, get it put together. I'm just going to have a whole gaggle of basket full of things coming down all at once. I know it's kind of hard to listen to the talking and didn't get any farther, but you'll watch me redo it, set the front end, have it done. Doing some shots of the front end that he wants to build. If I can do what I want to do and I can verify it when the engine's in, then I'm going to give him the green light and I'll buy the parts he needs and I'll step back and let him do the power racket in the front for power steering. I'm not worried about losing a few horsepower for power steering. The car has 315 horse. It had 85 from the factory, and I think it's going to be a quick moving vehicle. I built a cruiser. It's automatic, power steering, all the comforts of home and pleasure. I'll get the whole cotton picking thing done. Okay. The car color is either going to be orange or gray. Orange, I haven't decided yet, to be honest with you. I'm going to take the trunk lid off the other car and bring it up here. And when I'm starting the body work, I'm going to sand it down, blow a coat of primer on it, sand it again, blow some more primer on it, and then I'm going to paint one half of it orange, one half of it gray. I'll get the same paint in the spray bomb, paint half and half, with put a strip of tape up the middle, so I can paint one, cover it, paint the other, and you look at it and see which one out in the sunlight looks the best. Looking at it in here won't help me. So what we got coming up is we'll go down and do the wiring thing. I see if he'll let me shoot some video there. He may not, because all the stuff he's got sitting around, you know, it's his game. I'm not going to mess with his parade. And then sometime a week after that, we're going to be in Southern Ohio, getting a rear end. And I am getting excited about that, because that'll really catapult me forward, because once the engine gets here, when we get the motor mounts in there, while I'm working on the engine, and the other days I can go out there with a paint dry and get the engine compartment painted. It's that ready, close to be ready. I got to pull out some brake lines. I'm replacing the brake lines regardless. Okay? Don't care. I want them gone. And then after that, I may change the fuel line. I haven't decided what to do in the long run with a couple of these things. If I got crud in the fuel line, I can't get it out, or in the tank, and I don't get it out, and it ends up getting in the filter, and some of it gets past the filter somehow. It gets up there and messes with these injectors. I'm going to lose a lot more money than if I bought a brand new tank and put a brand new fuel line in. You see my drift on this? So we will see. We shall see. So we got decisions to make, materials to go locate. That's what we're going to be doing. We do know we're going with Miata seats. We're going with the black interior. We're going with red stitching or the black vinyl material on the interior. It's going to have the plastic windows and the canvas top on it, vinyl top. The windshield's on the other. We're not that far around. We just need some tools to accelerate this, because I'm working alone. I'm going to need a safe engine stand. I'm going to need the transmission jack. For Father's Day, I'm going to talk my wife into letting me get my flux, not my flux, but my gas MIG welder. I got a flux core, and I can do some welding with it. And I got a little buzz box for quickie stuff that I'll be using out here. Just I need a little tack weld or something. It's right there. My big Miller welder, the 220 amp jobber, is out at my son's, and that's the one I used to weld subframes and cars with, and it would literally penetrate the weld clear through. You could see it on the other side. It wasn't a little pretty weld like everybody else was doing. I said, when I welded them together, you had to cut and grind to get them off. And I'm practicing my welding, because